You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump ally floats dubious immigration scheme after major Supreme Court rebuke, based on an article by Matt Laswell. Republican power uses immigration as a cover story. The short version: after losing another fight over birthright citizenship at the conservative Supreme Court, Trump pushed Congress to end it. Rep. Troy Nehls responded by demanding something even broader: a 10-year halt on all immigration, legal and illegal alike, plus a federal dragnet for visa overstays and more money for enforcement. He offered no evidence for the anti-immigrant panic he was selling, only a familiar slurry of nativism, election fearmongering, and contempt for people who do not perform loyalty to Trump. Who actually has power? But people driving this are not confused bystanders. Trump is using federal institutions to keep attacking citizenship itself. Nehls is not merely echoing him, he is translating the agenda into a more brutal, more openly authoritarian demand. The Supreme Court, in this account, is the body forcing the administration to search for other routes. Congress becomes the next battlefield because Republican officials still control enough levers to turn grievance into policy pressure. That is the actual power structure here: elected Republicans, the executive apparatus, and the enforcement machinery they want to expand. The people being targeted are migrants, visa holders, and even the children of immigrants, who have no comparable institutional power in this story. The blame game is the product. Nehls does not argue from evidence. He argues from resentment. Immigrants are accused of abusing freedoms and liberties, disrespecting the culture, and failing to honor Trump. Then, without proof, legal immigration is folded into a democratic plot and birthright citizenship is recast as an election rigging scheme involving women from China and their children. That is not analysis. It is scapegoating with congressional credentials. The goal is to take a constitutional guarantee and turn it into a phantom threat, then attach that phantom to Democrats so the right can present its own cruelty as self-defense. The rebel pattern: escalation after constraint. There is a clear pattern in the source material. When one attack on democracy or citizenship hits a legal limit, the response is not restraint, it is escalation. Trump loses on one front, then demands Congress intervene. Nehls responds by widening the target from undocumented immigration to legal immigration, then to visa overstays, then to federal-state enforcement coordination. This is how restriction becomes system design. Each defeat is treated as an argument for more surveillance, more raids, more federal money, and more administrative power. The language of security is doing the work of repression. The DOJ is helping launder the frame. The Justice Department statement matters because it shows how quickly a narrow enforcement issue can be used to legitimize a wider political campaign. Birth tourism may be a real enforcement category, but the DOJ language elevates it into a national security threat, while Nehls uses it as a springboard for a much larger anti-immigrant purge. That distinction matters. Enforcement against specific fraud is not the same as using state power to treat immigrants generally as suspect, disposable, or electorally contaminating. The article shows the familiar trick: isolate a limited abuse, inflate it into existential danger, and then use that panic to justify broader exclusion. What this story really reveals: this is not a story about border management. It is a story about a political movement that cannot govern honestly, so it manufactures enemies to keep its coalition mobilized and its institutions moving in a harder direction. Republicans in this story are not struggling to solve a problem. They are building a political architecture in which citizenship, belonging, and democratic participation can be narrowed by force. The deeper pattern is simple: when authoritarian politics runs into constitutional limits, it does not stop. It rebrands its punishment as policy, its prejudice as patriotism, and its fear campaign as common sense. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Arctic, thanks for listening.